Assistance. My name is Jeanette Krar, and I'm the business advisor with WeVenture, based in Florida Tech in Melbourne, but serving the Space Coast and the Treasure Coast. And I'm joined this morning on the call with my associate Amber Batchelor, the director of the Women's Business Center. We've also got the legendary Bill West, the executive director of the Virtual Business Recovery Center. And as a virtual center, Bill and his team, they're everywhere, but they are doing amazing things in the Treasure Coast. And we've got Michelle Katzman, who's like his left arm and right arm and all of our brains, and she's the one that helps to make all of this work, also with the Virtual Business Recovery Center. I know we've got a lot of other folks on the call that I should be recognizing, but we would not get anything else done if I did that, but we certainly are going to be recognizing some of their organizations this morning, because today the focus is on you, our small business owners, and your businesses in St. Lucie County. So we are happy to provide you with more information about this important funding, and I'm going to do my very best to make this as simplistic as possible so you can get everything you need to apply and succeed in getting funding through this grant. We all know that this is just what a difficult time this is. It's particularly difficult for small businesses. There's no roadmap, there's no best practices. We don't even have a timeline. We don't even know when this is going to be over. So let me just say on behalf of the entire team, and it is a huge team, thank you for your entrepreneurial spirit and your contributions to the community. And we're really hopeful that this funding is going to provide you with a little bit of relief. So I think that we will get started. We want to do a little bit of housekeeping first. Amber is helping to mute you, but and one of the reasons for that is because there's a lot of people on the call, and we're going to be recording. We are recording the session so we can post it. So if you miss it, you want to hear it again, if there's somebody you want to direct to it, you'll be able to do that. We're going to post it on the site. We're using the chat feature, which is located at the bottom of the screen. So you will be able to ask questions, just put them in the chat. And I've got extra sets of eyes. Both Amber and Bill and Michelle are going to help me keep an eye on what you're putting in there and questions that you have, and we're going to do our best to answer them. If you have a question that's more confidential in nature, we're going to have contact information at the end of the call, and there are lots of people that can assist you. And if you're not sure how to use the chat feature, write your questions down. We know they're important, and we want to get to all of them that you have, or all of them that time allowed today, and then we'll get to the rest of them if we miss some after the call. So what are we going to be doing? Well, we want to talk about what is the St. Lucie Recover Small Business Assistance Grant, which is a mouthful. We're going to talk about who's eligible, what do the funds cover, the application process, required documentation, which is, I think, the most fun part of this whole thing, some tips for you, and I could have even spelled that right, but that's just a little extra tidbit of creativity that I decided to throw in. We've got some FAQs, some additional resources. We've got time for Q&A, and I will tell you how to contact us. So lots of information for us to review. So to start with, what is the St. Lucie Recover Small Business Assistance Grant? Well, first of all, we've got a few things here. Help is here for St. Lucie small businesses, and we know that many of you have been hit hardest by the pandemic. And these are grants, good news, not loans. They do not have to be repaid. So who are we talking about when we're talking about industries that were hit hardest? You know who you are: hospitality, retail, entertainment, food service, beverage, personal services. And if you were considered a non-essential business and told to go home, close your doors, that's pretty painful. So, but like, what's this money and where did it come from anyway? So the St. Lucie County received $13.8 million from the state of Florida's Division of Emergency Management. And this was part of the federal coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which we have all heard everybody talking about, known as the CARES Act. These funds are being used to assist residents as well as businesses, and there's been about $4 million allocated specifically for small business assistance grants. This application process is being administered by St. Lucie County in partnership with the Economic Development Council of St. Lucie County, and with support from the Virtual Business Recovery Center, the SBDC, CareerSource Brevard, the City of Port St. Lucie, the City of Fort Pierce, SCORE, and WeVenture. So when I said, you know, there's a lot of people behind this, I wasn't kidding. A lot of people really want to see you succeed. And while these are going to be done, and they're going to be, the grants are going to be allocated on a first come, first served basis, there is going to be a priority given to people who have not yet received any funding from federal, state, or local assistance related to COVID-19 impacts. We're going to open this wide up on Monday, 9 a.m., August 3rd. And you're going to have a month. September 3rd will be the last day to apply for the grants. So the next thing that everybody wants to know, can I get money? Am I eligible? So this is a short story. Businesses with revenue up to $1 million, and that's as reported on your last tax return. So we'd like to think your last tax return was 2019. But we do know that there are times when you don't get that done and you might have had to put in an extension. If that is your case, we will accept a 2018 tax return with proof of extension, but you will have to have that. So the revenue cap is 1 million, and then we've got it broken into two categories of employees. 0 to 3 employees, you'll be eligible for a maximum grant award of $5,000. If you have 4 to 10 employees, you will be able to receive a maximum of up to $7,500. And yes, this does include sole proprietors. If you are working as a sole proprietor, you'd look at yourself as the employee one. So you would be in the 0 to 3 category for the grant. There is, of course, a couple of additional things that I didn't put on the PowerPoint, mostly because it's more than 1 or 2 and they won't fit. But these are pretty normal things, I think, and I'm going to go over them with you. I think you'll be able to do a pretty easy mental checklist of does this apply to you or not as far as eligibility. So what else do you need to be eligible? Well, food service establishments are eligible. Bars, pubs, nightclubs, you're probably eligible. Short-term lodging establishments and vacation rental management companies that collect and remit tourist development tax are eligible. Non-essential businesses covered under Section 5 of the State of Florida Safer at Home Guidance document and the Governor's Executive Order 20-112, 20-120, and 20-123, and companies that weren't included in the other things are eligible. Any business subject to any St. Lucie County emergency order limiting operations, you would be eligible to apply. In addition to being hardest hit or having suffered economic injury, your company must also meet a few other qualifications. Most of these will apply to most of you. There might be a couple things that don't, but I do want to go through them. You should have sustained economic damages from business interruption caused by COVID-19 exceeding $1,000 between March 1st, 2020 and December 30th, 2020. Bill, I know we've got you not muted, so could you explain that, because you'll do a better job than I. When I say March 1st, 2020 and December 30th, 2020, and the grant goes to September 3rd. So please explain that.
Good. I am answering someone else's question on chat that is related. So it is, they have to have demonstrated that they were in, let's see. So the damages, everything is March 1st or earlier. So they have to have been in business by February, last year was a leap year, February 29th,
The 28th
2019.
after, actually. Been established and operating
Yeah,
since February
this
28th.
year's a leap year. February 28th, 2019, they have to have been established. And then they have to show that they're continuing to they're back in business now. It's really intended for businesses that were forced to close. That was the big piece that we're kind of missing. So all of those businesses, everything that was there other than restaurants and the lodging establishments were all forced to close. The lodging establishments and restaurants were obviously forced to curtail. So these funds are intended to get out to those businesses that were the most impacted.
Okay, great. So is there more? Of course there's more. Are you eligible? Well, you need to be located in St. Lucie County, Florida. You must be in some kind of a commercial space. Unfortunately, if you are a home-based business, you would not be eligible. You have to have been established and operating since at least February 28th, as Bill just said, 2019. And able to demonstrate ongoing business operations as of February 29th, 2020. So like, how do you do that? Well, maybe you've been currently open for business in some capacity or temporary closed because of a government order, or registered as a Florida business with SunBiz. If not with SunBiz, perhaps the business was operating prior to March 1st, 2019, and examples of this might include having a license issued from the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation, certification from the Department of Health, and this "and" is going to apply to everybody, have a business tax receipt from an applicable St. Lucie jurisdiction. I don't know about you, but I've been in business a long time, and I went, what's a business tax receipt? We're talking about a business license or a business permit. That's normal lingo, and I think everybody's got one of those or should get one. Be current in all St. Lucie County property tax obligations through tax years 2018, and your business must be for-profit and privately owned. Unfortunately, nonprofits are not eligible. A business will be ineligible if an officer, owner, partner, or principal has been convicted of a financial crime in the last 3 years. And lastly, these are funds that are intended to help you remain in business. So you should expect to be operational after local and all state or local emergency guidelines restricting business operations are lifted. If it is your intention at this time to close your doors, you don't intend to reopen, you would be ineligible. So do not apply. All right, that was a whole bunch of stuff, but I think that also, and I'm going to say this over and over and over again, I'm going to give you the magic link, and you're going to see it in a couple of minutes, but everything that I'm talking about, everything that I'm sharing with you is on this site. So you will be able to go back, go through it, get resources, and really it's been done extremely well. Everybody is trying to make this as simple as possible to help you get through this process and get the awards. So you get the awards, how do you use it? Let's talk about that. Here's the short story: mortgage, rent, utility, and insurance premium costs, reopening costs, costs for safety measures. So in our first category of mortgage, rent, utility, and insurance premium costs, this is during the period of time that business is closed to allow any stay-at-home order. Reopening costs, those are incurred during a reopening process, and they include additional business interruption resulting from any anything that limits accessibility to the public. Also costs for displaying and or communicating state-based requirements for public access. As far as cost,
Hey, Jeanette, you're having a little bit of connectivity issue. Would you mind starting at the top from that's the slide that we just started?
I'm sorry, my computer is as unstable as I am, but I will try it again. All right, mortgage.
Okay, so Jeanette is having some connectivity issues, but I know she's going to be right back with us. So
okay,
I am putting the Yes, we can hear you now. I think it's just maybe going in and out a little bit. But while as you get reconnected here, I just wanted to let everyone on the call know that the link is in the chat feature so that you can see all the eligibility requirements that Jeanette just went through with us. Jeanette, you can take the call back. Thank you.
I try it again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now you see why Amber's helping me out here. All right, let's talk about a little bit more detail about these. The mortgage, rent, utility, and insurance premium costs, these are during the period the business is closed to follow stay-at-home orders. Reopening costs include costs incurred during a reopening process, including additional business interruption resulting from any limited accessibility to the public, also costs for displaying and or communicating state-based requirements for public access. Costs for safety measures, we've gotten real used to some of those, the masks and the sanitizers. Other costs of implementing any required safety measures undertaken in order to reopen the business. We're getting real used to having glass between us and other people. Grant recipients may use these funds to cover payroll during a closure. However, as with all expenses, recipients may not use these funds to cover expenses that have been or will be reimbursed by other means, such as federal or state funding or insurance proceeds. All right, this is the most important slide. I'm just kind of going on and on about detail. This is the most important slide because of that link. You go to that link and everything I'm sharing is on this site. Everything I tell you that you're going to need in terms of information, documentation, they've got a link for everything. If you're told you need a XYZ, it's like, click this XYZ link and it'll take you to either the place you get it, retrieve it, understand it, research it. So I have to just take my hat off to everybody involved in this process for everything they've done, because it really is the smoothest grant process that I have seen, trying to put everything in place as possible that you can succeed through the process and be awarded the dollars. So make note of this, put this link in your like auto dial if you got one on your computer. I don't, maybe you do, but you're going to go back to this site a lot. So let's talk about the process and what's involved with that. It really is pretty simplistic. The hardest part, I think, is making sure you've got all your documentation. If you've got all your documentation, the rest of it is going to go really, really well. So a couple of things. The first part, and I'll add a little bit more detail too, is that same link. Step one is you go to the site, you review all the information, and you have access at that site to the, to the grant application. You check again your eligibility. There's a separate link that you go into before you actually go through the entire grant. Step three is, depending on your business type, you gather the specific completed documents needed to support your application. You complete the online application and upload the required documents. And then funds are going to be awarded on a first come, first served basis between August 3rd and September 3rd, 2020, or until we run out of money, whichever comes first. So a couple of other things though about the process. Once you submit the process, you've successfully submitted it, and you will get a notification. Once you're into the electronic process itself, the application goes into review. And county staff members are currently going to be at this stage reviewing your application for accuracy, completeness, and again for eligibility. If needed, it will be returned to you for corrections. A reviewer or auditor may have identified some portion of your application or documentation that's missing, could be inaccurate, improperly completed, or inconsistent with grant guidelines. They're going to work with you to try to correct this issue, and will get in touch with you probably by email. So pay attention to that. Once the completed initial review, your application has completed the first step in the process, and it will be awaiting further review by the first audit team. Secondary review will then happen, and the audit team will actively be reviewing your application. All the boxes have been checked off, all the documentation is there, everything is complete, everything is accurate. You've gone through this far. So now you're really being looked at as far as, can we check the box off and say, here you go. When that happens, after the secondary review, payment pending final audit. Your application has passed the first audit step and has been sent to the finance office for possible payment. The application will undergo one final audit check by staff of the clerk of the circuit court, comptroller, and the inspector general. And when it passes this final step, a check will be mailed to the mailing address that will be on your submitted W-9 form. Should you be denied, your business will be notified that either you were ineligible or you just did not provide the required documentation. You will know before you get to the final step, usually, if something is going to be denied or not. But here's another excellent piece of information that's not in the screen and not talked about as part of the actual grant. One of the things that we learned, and it was a hard lesson after the initial funds were awarded for the PPP and the EIDL loans, was that the money was a great benefit and it did help a lot of companies out. But it didn't solve the problems. It gave a little bit of relief, but it takes more than money to help all of the businesses, all of you out there, to say, well, so what am I supposed to do now? I can't run my business up to full capacity. I may not be able to run my business at all yet. And I'm not equipped to know all the things that I should be doing, because this is unknown territory. So part of our program includes support services in terms of training, coaching, peer groups, all kinds of direction to help you make the best strategic management, profitable, effective decisions for your business. In this process, I am acting as the outreach coordinator. I'm collaborating not only with WeVenture, but with SCORE, with SBDC, with CareerSource, and with all of our other partners, Virtual Business Center. We've got mentors, facilitators, business advisors, subject matter experts in every category. So you can reach out to me. You can reach out to any of the folks on that site that I just talked about, recoverstlucie.org. You can call me directly or email me. And the thing is that it doesn't matter whether you get the funds or you're denied for the funds. Everyone is eligible for the support services, and they start right now at this very minute. There's no waiting for those. So more good news. This is a grant program. It's not a loan. So that means you don't have to pay back. You do want to recognize the fact that you might be asked at a later point, how did you spend the money? And so you do want to keep good records, because if asked, you'll need to be able to verify and document that.
And Jeanette, thank you so much. I wanted to just interject. We had a question for clarity in the chat feature. Bill West, would you like to provide that clarity for us?
Sure, this is the check. So
Yes.
all payments will be made by direct deposit. There's a direct deposit form included within the application, and that will be the funding mechanism. So we won't have to worry about checks getting misplaced or lost or whatever.
Great. Okay. So let's talk documentation. Is this your favorite part. This is definitely my favorite part. It's like, okay, the first ones that I listed here, everybody needs to come up with, but they're really, really basic. So, I mean, a driver's license, both sides, right? Or a state identification card. Completed and signed W-9 form. If you have any questions on W-9 form, gee, go to the website, you click on the link. I mean, anything that's on here, there's a link to describe, to help, to direct. St. Lucie County direct deposit authorization form. Valid local business tax receipt. Again, that's your business permit or business license. You got to have one. Copy of active state business registration, business financials for your business type. So as a small business, I'm thinking most of you are probably going to be an individual or a sole proprietor, probably an LLC. But so these on the side have just been broken out if you've got a different type of structure to your business. And we can go through that, but there's, it's basically, you're going to be providing your business financials according to your structure. Receipts or proposals supporting eligible reimbursable COVID-19 related business expenses. You probably have things you've bought. Hopefully you have those receipts. There may be things that you have planned to do or proposals that you have out there that are pending. Those can be submitted. Incurred or planned, again, between March 1st, 2020 and December 30th, 2020. We will also need a copy of your business lease or your utility bill, and that is just to substantiate your business address. Okie doke. Here's a couple of tips. Don't rush to submit. I know that we said, you know, it's going to be for 1 month and it's first come, first served basis. And we did say if there's an issue, you know, there's going to be stop gaps along the way and you will be notified. But every time that happens, it slows everything down. You will be much better off to go through, get prepped, understand what you need, review, get all your documents, make sure they're accurate, and then submit. If you rush to submit and it's a stop, go thing, you're going to get lost in the middle probably. You can stop the process once you start it. Once you're in that electronic process of going through the application, you can put it on pause and come back to it at any time up until you upload your documents. Once those documents are uploaded, there's no turning back. But whenever you have to pause or whenever you stop, get your stuff together, make sure it's complete, then apply. Double check that your current year documents are signed, scanned, and ready to roll. Make sure you've reviewed all of your documents and you've reviewed the screen before you select, boom, complete and continue. If your application needs additional information or corrections, as I mentioned, you will be contacted. Once you submit your application, it's locked. So be sure you've got everything. A member of our staff will be in touch with you, but again, they're working hard on getting everything reviewed, not to just go back and forth. So if you do get contacted, it's going to be the ball's in your court. So it's going to be your responsibility to get back. We have a few questions that people have already asked, and you might have a few more. Unfortunately, as I said, home-based businesses will not qualify. If I'm approved, how quickly will I receive assistance? It could be a couple of weeks or longer, depending. We really won't have the answer for that until we get into it. Michelle or Bill, do you have any kind of a sense of what people can consider as a timeline for getting the money?
Approximately 2 weeks. It's going to vary, right? So the more complete the application is, the faster we're going to be able to process it. We're expecting to be able to process these applications very quickly if they are completely, if they're completely filled out, all the documents are uploaded. It should be about a 2-week window. If we're having to go back and forth, require additional documentation, you can imagine that will elongate it, and people are getting it in front of you. So please be thorough and complete.
Okay. Did we get any other questions in the chat? Because I can't see that right now.
I am scrambling to answer those as we go. So keep going,
Okay,
Jeanette.
good. All right. Then I'm gonna, I think we answered most of these already. So if you partially qualify, you must completely qualify. So you must meet all of the eligibility requirements to receive funding. If you're a 1099 employee, do I qualify? No, you're considered an employee, not a business owner. There are other resources for you, and you can check with us and we can let you know what some of them are.
Let's clarify that, Jeanette, because many people get 1099s. Their business may be built on 1099. So if they're a sole proprietor, if they're a corporation, if they're anything, and they receive multiple 1099s, they're likely eligible. If they're a 1099 employee, so we had a question earlier about an insurance company. If that agent was a 1099 employee, did not otherwise have their own business, local business tax receipt, and were in business for themselves, renting a location from that insurance agent, they would not qualify. So it's intended to be full-blown businesses. So a business that is structured like a consulting business or something that receives multiple payments from multiple sources that are 1099, maintains a separate location, maintains their own business, local business tax receipt. I can never get that one right. If they maintain all of that, then they will likely be eligible.
Okay. All right. Any other chats or any other questions that would apply to a lot of people?
There's a question that has come up, I think at least twice in the chat so far, and it's, is the $1 million revenue gross or net? Bill, can you help us with that?
It is the gross revenue. So it is the top line revenue that you will see on your tax return, Schedule C, partnership return.
Okay. All righty. Sample of business issues. When we talked about business issues, let me back up. I said before that we have additional services for you besides the money. And the free services, the free training, the support, operational assistance through CareerSource, Research Coast, WeVenture, SBDC, SCORE, some of the different COVID-19 challenges that these services will address are things like identifying and applying for federal resources, understanding the hazards and prevention of COVID-19 as you reopen your business, managing a possible disruption of supplies to support production and sales. I didn't know that there was like a problem getting metal cans till I went to buy my husband's soft drinks. He said, oh, you can't get metal cans. I don't know how you're being affected, but a lot of businesses are being affected by disruption of supplies. Organizing and implementing successful practices that support telework and remote work. People that have never worked this way are working that way now. Applying new ways to provide outstanding customer service and marketing. Attracting and retaining employees, attracting and retaining customers, learning effective business practices necessary to reverse the economic effects of COVID-19, and of course, building revenues. So these are just some of the other resources. They are free, they're available to everybody. And who can help you? Well, this is some of the team. And you can feel free to reach out. You've now met Bill West, the Executive Director of the Virtual Business Recovery Center, and he has been leading this charge and doing all the coordination and all the direction and all the strategy for this grant. I introduced myself already as the outreach coordinator and helping out with some of the program or some of the business services, the training and support services, And I think we have Katie Muldoon on the call as well. Katie, did you see her name on that?
Yes, she's here. Give me one moment, Laura.
And she is with the SBDC and will be helping as well.
And I
So-
believe she may have had to step off for another call.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, how about questions? We gave you a lot of information. How about any questions that we can answer for anybody? I'm going to pull this down, and so I can see everybody. If I can see out of my...
Jeanette, this is Michelle. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I just want to qualify, there were a couple of things. The businesses have to be operational, set up prior to February 28th, 2019, but they must be able to attest that they were actually operational as of February 29th, 2020. They may have been ordered to close by government guidelines, but they haven't closed their doors. So businesses that are currently operational and not closed permanently are the businesses we're trying to help the most. So there was a question there, did I have to be shut down? You could have been closed temporarily, but obviously if you haven't closed permanently, you are the ideal eligible candidate for this grant.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. How about other questions or clarifications? The site is going to
There was
open on Monday.
Jeanette, I'm sorry, and there was a point of clarity from Pete with the St. Lucie EDC. Pete, I'm so sorry. Let me go ahead and unmute you so that you can actively participate here. Thank you for your patience. But in the interim, as we get Pete access, we wanted to clarify that Katie is with the Florida SBDC at Indian River State College and not with the IRS.
Thank you for that. Got to be careful with these acronyms.
And Pete, I'm trying to unmute you, so as soon as you see that microphone go green, it's you're up. But I'm just having a little technical issues.
Well, while you're doing that, let me just remind you, the site is open. You can see the links. The links are working for all of the resources. And the application process will be open starting Monday at 9 a.m. So you've got all weekend, rest of today and all weekend to work on documentation and review before you go through the application process. See how easy? This is going to be a piece of cake, right? We're not getting any other questions.
It actually is pretty. It's pretty simple. You have to be diligent. You have to be you have to be on top of it. You pay attention to your details. We want to make sure the lease agreement matches the W-9, that all those things match up. If you pay attention to all of that, it should be. And if you're prepared, so there's several places in the FAQ. You can collect your documents, get them ready. Be thinking about it. Be thinking about your upload that you have to make. And if you do that, really the questions that you have to answer are very short. It's really not that. Michelle, would you share the grant email address with everybody? There's questions about direct and specific questions. We need to get that.
I'm sorry, what email address do you want me to share?
I believe it's SLC grant #1, SLC, correct me if I'm wrong here, Michelle, SLC grant #1 @gmail.com is where you can email for additional questions. But a minute ago, I just put up the FAQ section, the direct link to the FAQ. That St. Lucie or recoverstlucie.org is a wealth of information. You will see the link direct. If you just go to St. Lucie, recoverstlucie.org, if you go to recoverstlucie.org, you will see a direct link down there. I think it's red, that takes you immediately to the grant information on this site. On the right side of that, you will see various buttons that you can click. And about 4 or 5 down is a frequently asked questions section that is pretty robust.
Bill, there's a question about why home-based businesses do not qualify.
Home-based businesses. So there, again, St. Lucie, recoverstlucie.org. Visit recoverstlucie.org. The county has done has put out residential support. They're trying to make sure that the businesses who were hardest hit gets access to these funds first. So it is a kind of a small bucket. We're putting it out there. We are hoping that more funds become available so that we can announce an expansion of this program, but we want to make sure that these businesses who desperately need these funds get them first. Home-based businesses were impacted differently, and there are residential grants available at recoverstlucie.org. I believe the application process may currently be paused, but it's likely to reopen. So I would encourage you to look there and apply there if you're home-based business.
Couple other questions, Bill, that popped up that I don't see a response to. People are asking, so you need to have less than 10 employees. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, I did, but it is, so in this, as we sit currently, and again, so the county is looking at this very closely. They're trying to make sure that everybody's needs get addressed across the board very carefully. But if there are funds available, we may expand that down the road to larger companies. But currently it is only 10 employees or less. So. We couldn't get Pete unmuted, huh?
Good morning, Bill. I'm here, so I had to jump off for a second.
Okay. I think someone was trying to ask you a question, or Amber was attempting to unmute you.
Yeah, I used, good morning, Pete. I used your response providing clarity for where Katie works with SBDC as opposed to IRS. So thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, I think people would feel more comfortable at Indian River State College rather
Yeah.
than. But,
My bad.
Amber,
I apologize.
well, we need a bit of levity. I was on the phone with one of our EDC investors who is a CPA, and he wanted to reinforce the fact that while these funds are grants, they could be considered taxable income by the IRS. So just as a note to our applicants to be cognizant of that fact, that this could be considered taxable income for this calendar year.
Thank you for that. I had it in my notes and I did not share that. That's important. Mm-hmm. Bill, I don't think that we covered this yet. There was a question about getting some funding for mortgage from other grants, but it didn't cover the whole thing. If it's if you still have residual bills, even if you got partial coverage from one grant, but it doesn't cover everything, can you get that funding from this?
Yes. Yes, you need to be very careful. So whether it's PPP, and here we can, if you've received insurance funds, you shouldn't be using those to pay for the same things. But this is very generous for, we know that how desperately these businesses who were forced to close were impacted. The county has been very generous to allow mortgage payments, rent payments, insurance, whatever payments you had during that closure period to be counted as expenses. The other clarification is you cannot be requesting revenue replacement. This is not intended to be revenue replacement. Everything on the CARES Act is intended to be a reimbursement for you. So that is how we got you in there to get this support. It was a great opening from the county to be able to allow that.
There was a question about, can you use funds for legal expenses? Once again, organizations like SBDC and We Venture and SCORE do have legal services available through their organizations. And so you can meet with, when I talked about people that are like subject matter experts, we have people that are lawyers, attorney, and then you can slice and dice, whether it's a patent, a trademark, a lease, whatever the case may be. And those services are free.
So I'd clarify. So legal services, especially if it's something where you were trying to figure out whether or not to reopen business, if it's COVID-19 related, right? So it's where you were looking for advice. This is intended to be really unbudgeted or additional expenses or expenses that you were forced to incur during a closure. So those types of expenses would be allowed. But really, it wouldn't be your ordinary. It wouldn't be a patent attorney. You wouldn't be filing for a patent and the grant funds wouldn't be eligible for that use. It would be used for, if you had to figure out what signage, how to comply with a mask ordinance, those types of things would absolutely be allowable.
I really thought we were going to get more questions.
I think we do. They're coming in the chat room, and I'm going to ask, we have several counselors, navigators online. I can see Sarah and others answering, but if we're in this Q&A, I'm not able to monitor and answer the chats and address questions directly here. So whatever you guys can do, but there's at least 5, I believe, more counselors on the line and available to you. Jeanette, we can really talk about the additional support and everything that's available there. And we do have broad, you can describe WeVenture and what you guys do and the other support.
Absolutely, thanks.
And Jeanette, would you mind sharing a few success stories that, or maybe one just in highlight Ignite 360 program?
Oh, absolutely. One of our programs is an enormous help to businesses. It's not a quick fix short term. We have a 3-month and a 6-month mentoring program. And these are where we create a board of advisors for you. And basically, we just close that gap. Most of the businesses that I'm talking to these days have had a huge decrease in revenues, are working on rebuilding margins, attracting customers, and trying to determine, how do I run my business differently? And how do I reinvent what I do? WeVenture can help with that. And what we have done with our businesses is when people graduate from the WeVenture mentoring class, which is a 6-month class, and when you're in an immediate situation like this, that sounds like a long time. But that's one of the reasons why it's so important. Your business is now here, and you need to be here, and you've got this gap in the middle, and you can't just jump the chasm. You've got to prioritize, and you've got to become very strategic, and you've got to become very solution oriented. So as a result, we have our companies that on average see revenue increase of 40%, even in these times. Over the last, and I can't remember how many, I think in the last year, it was 32 jobs, I think, were created. And I'm trying to remember the millions of dollars that have been generated through small businesses that have gone through the program. I'd like to be able to give you the exact, if you go to our website, all of that is on there. But we have the peer groups where we can bring you together with other businesses who are going through some of the same issues. You can brainstorm, you can work through those, you can collaborate, you can get resources. We have consulting services, meeting with business advisors who specialize in areas. SCORE has got an abundance of people as well. Amber, you've got a really good close eye on the pulse of the programs. Why don't you give some of your perspective?
Oh, sure. So thank you so much for hosting us today, Jeanette, Bill, Pete, and Michelle, and your teams. So we are really looking for people that have been impacted by COVID-19. So Jeanette talked about our Ignite 360 program because of grant money that we actually received as a nonprofit through the CARES Act that serves under the SBA. We're able to provide that particular high-level mastermind type of consulting complimentary. Normally it's $2,500, but it's complimentary for you, so it's free. But if you need more specialized help, as Jeanette mentioned, we have about 100 consultants that are subject matter experts. So if you are seeing issues with HR, if you're having finance specific issues with how to manage your funds, or you were impacted and you need to identify new streams of revenue to help you pivot very quickly, we can reduce the amount of time it takes to get you hooked up with those subject matter experts, and you can have a specialized one-to-one, or if you want to bring in your other business partner, a 2-to-1 session. So those are specialized services that we would like to get you hooked up with as quickly as possible. And those mentors are ready and waiting for folks that have been impacted by COVID-19, and we're able to help you immediately. For people that maybe this isn't the right fit for you at this particular disbursement, for this grant program and say you're not eligible, if you still or have been impacted, please contact us or the SBDC or SCORE to ask about how we can help make sure that you are sustainable through the crisis and beyond. I put the WeVenture website in the chat feature, and Jeanette has the slide presentation that also had our contact information. So I'll continue to put more contact information in the chat feature. But just know that you're not alone, and we do have regularly scheduled virtual sessions for you also. But we're here to support you.
Super. I just sent you a request to unmute Marcelo if you could, Amber. So there's a lot of additional resources here. Many SBDC counselors, so the consultants that you're used to working with the SBDC are on our grant review team and are available for you. So you are, the people are incredibly experienced on this team that will be assisting you through the grant process. Alternately, if you were, this is mainly for companies who are not eligible for this grant, but bigger companies, there's lots of relationships going on here. So Marcelo is with CareerSource Research Coast, and if he is unmuted,
And Marcelo, you have access to unmute yourself.
Thank you. No, Bill, I just wanted to remind, for any companies there, participating, they're above the 10 employee count or above the $1 million threshold. Portion of the CARES, workforce grant funding is that for those that may be hiring or that do have an upswing in business and adding to their staff, the grants also provide reimbursement for wages on those new hires, and for you to upskill employees, we'll pay for the tuition for that and any costs that are involved with contracting a vendor to train.
So it's paying for additional training for employees. So if it is you, and if you're in a position that you can expand your staff, need to expand your staff, it is available for you, but we know that this is primarily for those larger businesses. But if you have ways to communicate that is available from CareerSource Research Coast, we would greatly appreciate it. Are there other questions in the chat room that we missed that someone could, Michelle or Amber could pitch to Jeanette?
Well, I want to say thank you so much to Sarah Smith. She has been tackling a lot of these questions for us right away, so thank you. If you has not been answered, we have a minute or two. If you want to use the raise hand feature to raise your hand so that we can call you directly, please do so now. If you're not familiar with how to access that, it's at the very bottom of the participants log. You simply click participants at the bottom of your Zoom screen and hit the raise hand feature, and we will grab you. But Bill, to your point, our SMEs from the different agencies are jumping in to answer the questions.
Okay, and Kimberly, I think, has tried to ask. There's Kimberly Sullivan out there. If I can track, I just started to repeat her question, but if anyone can see Kimberly's question, I can ask it.
Okay.
We will answer it. Kimberly?
Kimberly said, you said that the period of time that the grant would cover would be from March 1 to December 30th, 2020. If we are in July, do we calculate our forward expenses in addition to our past expenses we need coverage for? That's from Kimberly.
So it's the expenses for when you were closed, right? So currently most businesses are open. So if you're currently still forced, if you're still closed and out of business somehow, then those expenses absolutely would apply, but it is intended for the period that you are forced to close. The additional expenses, so like the proposal would be if you had to make a modification, if you had to put up plexiglass shields or something to social distance. I did see a question kind of flip through earlier that was talking about expanding for social distancing. If it is something to accommodate your existing customer base and you have to expand to be able to do that, yes, absolutely, it would be available. But it is intended for this round, this grant that we are offering currently is intended for those businesses that were closed, and where we got it to be a reimbursement was to allow for those expenses that you incurred during that period, those specific expenses.
Thank you. And we have a question from Christina Brown. What is the time frame that income has to be adversely affected? If a company is now seeing a decrease and not initially, will they still be eligible?
Super. So it's not to replace income. That's, we have to be very, very clear. The CARES Act funds do not allow you to replace income. So if your application comes in and you're looking to replace income, that is not what this is for. This is for businesses who are closed, who had expenses such as rent, insurance, etc. During those closed, it's really this is a stopgap to get to the most hit businesses. So, to explain it.
And then Candy had asked if we can clarify the FTE numbers, the full-time employee numbers.
Sure. So the intent here is to get everybody funds that needs the funds, right? So we are trying to make this as broad as we can. You are asked for an employee count, so we tried to make it simple. If you have an employee, if you had 16 employees, well, you have 20 employees and 16 of them are part-time, you're at 12, so you're still kind of over. If you had 18 and you had that kind of same scenario, then you'd be down at the 10 employees. But we're looking at full-time equivalent. It says employees there just to make it simple. We know that many of you were really expecting these funds just out of an employee count. These funds are going to go pretty quickly.
And then, Bill, I'm going to unmute Christina Brown. She would like a little more clarity. And Christina, I'll ask if you can keep your question to 30 seconds or less for the sake of time. That would be great, but we want to get you clarity.
Yeah, she doesn't have a mic. Can someone read her question to me?
Oh, we just read it. So, Christina, I'll make a note here to, oh, it looks like you are unmuted, Christina. Go right ahead.
She doesn't have a mic though.
Oh, I see. Okay, so Christina, I will make a note. If you can message me privately with your email address, I'll make sure we follow up with you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Bill, do you want to address if a business was not required to close but has closed, does that qualify if it wasn't a government order? They just have closed for other reasons?
Yeah, it's under a government order, so you would have been forced to close. There have been occasions, I don't think I've heard of it in St. Lucie County, but there are places where perhaps there was a misunderstanding of whether or not you were essential, and some businesses were forced to close. So those you could certainly be able to prove that and document it, and we would allow that exception.
And Bill, will you just touch on one more time the fact that this is kind of the first phase of opportunity? I think a few folks are concerned because they are not eligible at this time.
We hope this is a first phase.
Right.
There are only so many funds to go around, and there's a lot of demand for these funds. So there's food bank, you can imagine across the board. So the county is trying to make sure that the hardest hit do get those funds, and that is where we built this system. So hopefully, even if this isn't the support, if the financial support isn't available for you, we have additional support for you. So Jeanette is coordinating it, as she said, the counseling services to be able to assist you with your business plan, with your business planning, if it's a regular formal loan application, all of that is available there for you. So we want to support you as best we can, but we're trying to make sure the hardest hit companies and people get these funds.
Thank you, Bill.
While we've been saying, you can't this or that, the flip of that also is if you're an entrepreneur and you have multiple different companies, you may only apply once for a company, but if you have different unique companies, you may apply if they meet the criteria for more than one company.
And I know that this is on the FAQ sheet as well as has been asked and answered multiple times, but can we please clarify the opening date of a business to qualify for a grant, Bill?
A business must have been in operation prior to March 1st, 2019 to be eligible. So that makes it February 28th. I believe I finally got it down. February 28th or earlier in 2019 that they would have had to been open.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Sarah. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Are we seeing any other questions? Well, I think that I'm going to wrap this up, but as I said before, we are all available to you. I think you can see the responsiveness. We've got so many of the navigators that are on the call. People are here willing to help. Really want to get you through the process, direct you to additional resources, and help you in any way that we can. So I hope this call was helpful for you and you've got a good idea of what to do, how to do it. We certainly hope to see so many of you receiving the funding. Our contact information is out there. We will add additional contact information in different places to help you reach us with your questions and with your needs. And I just want to thank you again for taking the time to meet with us this morning. Bill, did you have any other?
Yes, there is. We are asking for a desperate response to a question, and if somebody can parcel it out there. Kimberly and Daniel have apparently asked a question that they're still looking for an answer for. How long do we have left, Amber, on this? Do we have time?
Yes, we have time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Are there other grants available is a question. Got it. Okay, so St. Lucie, recoverstlucie.org, recoverstlucie.org. At recoverstlucie.org, there are different drop downs for residences for business. This is the grant from St. Lucie County for the CARES Act from businesses. If you are in other municipalities, Fort Pierce has had a grant program going up and down a little bit. I don't believe it's currently available, but there have been other municipalities receive, I believe they could call it an entitlement city. So they've received some direct grant funding and we're out the gate pretty early with funds. Other places that you could apply is, I believe the PPP is still open. Jeanette?
I believe they did.
EIDL still open? Yeah.
It's open until August 8th.
So if you have not applied for the PPP or EIDL, Google EIDL and SBA, or if you just Google EIDL, look for the SBA.gov website there, click on that. Not everyone seems to know about that, but everybody should apply for it. There's some businesses, it seems like they keep changing the rules on all this stuff, guys. They were initially saying $10,000. Many businesses did receive $10,000. It appears that if you're smaller businesses and you only have one employee, if you had one employee, you got $1,000. Maybe if you had two employees, you got $2,000. So that seems to be what kind of settled down there. But there is a little bit of money available there, and frequently businesses will get offered a backup loan, a low interest loan from that. So definitely EIDL is one place to apply. Your banks with the PPP is a place to apply. If you're having difficulty with your banks, I would encourage you to Google like PayPal, Intuit, QuickBooks. All of those are non-bank providers that you can get through other grant funds. Yeah, that's really a roundabout of what's available right now, I believe.
Yeah, the tag on to what you're talking about with the PPP is it usually is faster if you start with your personal bank. They know you. If they are not giving the PPP funds, they can very often refer you to someone who is, or if you go to the SBA site and put in your zip code, they will direct you to businesses that are still participating in your area.
I believe everybody that had SBA loans were granted. Jeanette, you're probably gonna know this answer better than I do. Were they granted, there was a deferral, a forbearance that they were, not a forbearance, but a deferral that they were granted that was paid, and then there might have, I saw early on that they might have had access to a draw or something off of that. Do you know the details?
That we usually defer that to someone else, but Amber, do you know the answer to that question?
So specifically for PPP or for the EIDL, Bill?
If you have an existing SBA loan, I would encourage you to discuss that loan with whoever you have that loan, whoever's servicing that loan. So you get your bill, there's a phone number on there. I would encourage you to talk to them. There is a lot with SBA lending, especially. There is a lot that the government is attempting to do to assist small businesses. Make sure you're getting those benefits.
Yes. So if you got idle, you were assigned a project manager for your first contact through email. That project manager is still available to you, and the idle is economic injury disaster loan through the Small Business Administration. That loan is not forgivable. If you were granted the up to $10,000, which was $1,000 per employee at the time, granted it was a very fluid process, so that's kind of the most up-to-date information. Then that part of the idle was forgivable. So if you were granted $10,000, you had 3 employees, they gave you $3,000 up front, the $3,000 is forgivable, and that was a loan advance you should have already gotten from your drawdown. But the other $7,000, this is just an example, the other $7,000 would be you have to pay it back. And if you were granted the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program or Paycheck Protection Program, I always get those turned around. But the PPP SBA loans, which you apply for, as Jeanette mentioned, through your local bank relationship, you have to make sure that they know you want it to be forgiven, or at least what parts are forgivable. So you need to proactively have those conversations to say, what do I need to do to apply for PPP forgiveness? But as Bill mentioned, just reach out to the folks that are servicing your loan, and they absolutely are ready and waiting to help.
Sure. So to further clarify for Kimberly, this is a grant program. So the St. Lucie Recovers Small Business Assistance Grant Program is a grant. There is no forgiveness. It's a grant. It is given to you. You do not have to apply to be forgiven. There is no repayment to that. With the PPP and with the EIDL, most of the EIDL is something you have to pay back. Those $1,000 and $10,000 grants up front do not have to be paid back. But you would have to, aren't you guys, is WeVenture doing a PPP forgiveness webinar coming up? Or did I hear that?
Yes, thank you for that plug, Bill. Okay, so let me get you the date, because I actually was just about to throw that in our chat, because it's next week. We have 2 next week, so I want to make sure we get this correct. I'm sorry, not next week, the following week. So August 11th, from 1 to 2 p.m., there is a PPP forgiveness presentation. I will put the registration link in the chat, but again, August 11th from 1 to 2. Thank you.
So I think 9 a.m. Monday is the next thing to say, Jeanette, right? So 9 a.m. Monday, recoverstlucie.org. Visit there. You can visit there now. And again, there's a wealth of information for you. On Monday, that link will go live to the grant application at 9 a.m. So you can absolutely apply there.
All righty. We're going to wrap it up. This is not the end of your opportunity to ask questions or get any support you need. You can reach out to any of us. Definitely go to the website. Resources are there, emails are there, contacts and links. And we are looking forward to congratulating you on the continuation of your business. So unless anybody's got anything else, I'm going to wrap it up and send you off to